Good morning. I'm Mike Noondorfer with Advanced RV, and I'm here with Mike Griffiths.
Hello.
And we would like to answer questions that you folks raised. Mike and I are about 10 or 12 feet apart, and Mitchell, you're about 30 feet away. So I think it'll be easier to hear us if we take our masks off. We'll put them back on later. But we're here to answer the questions and the comments that you put on our insulating video that we did the other day. And we really appreciate the feedback. Great questions. There were three things that you asked that we want to quickly address. One is about closed cell polyurethane spray insulation for the inside of the van. Another is heat reflective coatings for the windows. And the third is mineral wool, which is a generic name for inorganic mineral. It's like fiber insulation. And we have had some experience with all three of those, so we'll talk a little bit about them. Mike, we've tried at least 3 times on 3 different vans polyurethane foam.
We did, yeah. We tried it on 3 different vans and we peeled it off 3 different times. We tried a variety of different expansion rates because we thought heat was the issue. But ultimately what it came down to is that it caused the sheet metal to deform pretty extensively on the exterior of the van, very noticeably, to where we just decided it wasn't a good choice.
So every other aspect of urethane is great. It conforms to the surfaces. You can get the thickness you want, has very good insulation properties, and it is a moisture retarder. And it's generally, it's non-absorptive. So has all the great properties, it insulates well, but it deforms the skin of the van. You know, if you have an old van and it doesn't matter to you, or, you know, we have a client that's done the same thing, that has insulated his whole van by a company that does refrigeration trucks. And his exterior was wavy, but he didn't care. The good thing about testing has been that, as Mike said, we have sprayed 2 or 3 different times with different chemistries. And in each case, after it cured, and we don't know if it's differential expansion that causes the cure, the warpage, or if it's the heat of cure because it's exothermic. But the good news is that when you can chip it back off, clean it back off, and the metal retakes its original form. So it does straighten out.
We actually had a representative from an expanding foam company come out, and they tried multiple things too while they were here. And we just couldn't come up with a good, solid solution that did everything we needed it to.
So that's urethane. That's why we don't use it. Mineral wool, Mike. I don't know the brand of it. There are a bunch of brands. It's used for industrial insulation because it has higher temperature resistance than even fiberglass, which doesn't really add anything to a van. But what are your thoughts on mineral wool?
So we've used it once or twice in the very beginning. It's pretty hard to work with. It doesn't give you a wide range of thicknesses to deal with the certain thicknesses in the van. And when you start to tear it apart, it becomes kind of flaky and just doesn't hold up very well. So not to mention the fact that it's heavier than most other materials, the benefit just wasn't there.
Cost, it was pretty cheap, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fairly inexpensive. It's more than normal fiberglass, but the benefit wasn't there.
And then the third thing, maybe Mike, you want to talk about is window protection from UV mostly and other radiated heat. What are, I mean, starting with the regular tint.
So a regular tint by nature is about 98% UV protective, which is good. It works well, but it doesn't have a good heat reflection to it. It's about 22% roughly. The film that we currently use, it's a ceramic film. There's also carbon films, which are one and the same. The ceramic film has about a 49%, they call it total solar energy reflection rating, which is what the rating is for heat reflection. And the darker the film is, the slightly higher the number will go. And it too is also 99% UV protective.
So it protects anything inside from fading and UV deterioration. But from a heat standpoint, it's about 50% reflective of the solar heat.
Just about, yep.
And maybe a little more or a little less than that. So it's really worth doing. How expensive is it, Mike?
It's more expensive. It's probably on the ballpark of double the cost of a normal tint, but it's completely worth it. Personal story, I had it in my personal car, and I was in a drive-through with the window rolled down about halfway, and the lower half of my face was fine, but from about my eyeballs up, my head was getting extremely warm. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then I realized that my window was down, and where the sun was coming through the glass, it wasn't hot, but above it was. So it truly does work. It's not a fad or a made-up thing.
Yeah, a lot of clients will just do the windshield because it's such a big surface area, but others will do the whole van.
We've had a lot of clients now doing the back windows just because there's a lot of glass, and they'll do the whole coach with the darker film, the 35%, so it has a little more heat reflection too.
Good. Well, I hope that answers the questions. Keep them coming, and thanks for helping us to remember some of our other failures.